Hello, everybody. Mauricio Garcia here. Excited as always, as every morning, to have the opportunity to start yet another Conquistador Podcast because there's a lot of value that is shared. Not only do I enjoy these, but I learn a lot because every day we're joined by my friend, mentor, and partner, Mr. Hubert Humphrey, to whom I salute this morning. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Great to be with you guys.
Well, we're excited about the topic for today because we'll talk about what it takes to really achieve greatness. And I know there's a specific steps that we have to follow through, and I'll let you take us through that through this class, if I want to call it, because sometimes I see these podcasts as the opportunities to really learn the secrets that have enabled you to build great companies in the past. And I think a lot of the entrepreneurs, if not all of them, are going to learn something new today that they can apply in their own businesses. So let's get started. What does it take to achieve greatness, really, in your words and in your strategy?
Well, today the whole theme today will wrap around this thing called think. How do you think? I was sharing with you before the podcast that Thomas Watson, the founder of IBM many years ago, said that the solution to most of the challenges in the world or in business is if the leaders of the world or leaders of business would just take the time to think strategically, think things out, have forward thinking, look back, look future, and think through. And have a plan that will cause them to have the success that they need to have between countries, in businesses. It's just there's a lack of strategic thinking. So there's three things that we'll hit today, and that you and I can kind of talk back and forth about. Mm-hmm. One is to think strategically. Don't just think, but think strategically. We'll talk about that in a second. And then commit specifically. Don't just say, well, I'm committed to do something. I'm committed to making lots of money. I'll get it sometime. No, you gotta think strategically. Then once the acting occurs, which it should be very quickly, it better be specifically. I'll use the word specificity is needed here. And then, of course, the third thing is to focus constantly, which is where most people, if you're lucky enough to ever think of something good and go out and start doing something good, even then, most of us are going to fail in the third part of it. We're going to constantly lose our charge. We're going to constantly get distracted. We're going to get unfocused. That's the killer for most people who are lucky enough to ever even get started. So I would think that to come back to this first one here, Mauricio, just to add a couple more things to it, and I'd like to hear what you have to say about it. But that great book by Napoleon Hill. Yeah. Napoleon Hill, his great book, Think and Grow Rich. That's such a simple title, but that word think, that book does a tremendous job in describing what the word think really means. Mm-hmm. That whole book is about that one thing, think. When you look in the scriptures in the Old Testament, Proverbs, it says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And so I want to add a little extra kind of thinking that most people never think about. In addition to thinking with your mind and doing strategic thinking, which you need to do, you need to have facts. You need to have knowledge. You need information about the industry, about the trends. You need to go back and review what's worked successful in the past and how you can make that happen in the future. Where were your mistakes? Where are your weaknesses that you can strengthen them? Get all that kind of strategic thinking. Now, by the way, you don't wait till you get all that perfect and then you go act. You constantly are working on this strategic thinking, and you're out there doing some imperfect plan being executed violently.
Good point.
While you're still doing it in between battles, you're still kind of doing strategic thinking. So it's not all, you're not sitting around thinking and never doing. That we got too much of that in life. We got all these think tanks and all these talking heads on television that are just talk. It's 24/7. It's filling up airtime, and it's always thinking and never doing. So think strategically when you or your team. And by the way, it's got to be a team thing. As a mastermind. Andrew Carnegie, when he built his great fame and fortune, he did it through a mastermind alliance. So it wasn't just he was thinking strategically, but he included a lot of other people that were specialists in their fields and et cetera, and they were part of his mastermind alliance, and so basically it became part of his mind. And they became one big super mind, if you will. It did super strategic thinking, and so it's not just you. You don't if you're in business all by yourself, you're in trouble. If you're the only person if you're the biggest thing you're aligned with, you're in trouble. Mm-hmm. You got to be aligned with something bigger than yourself. Today, I'm aligned with a whole mastermind alliance of people from centuries ago to leaders of today, business, all walks of life. I've got people that have strategic things that I know will fit in our business, and I use them as part of my mastermind. So you think strategically, and then you go and you commit specifically. And committing, we talked a little bit about that in one of our previous shows about aggressiveness and things like that. When you commit, you're burning the ships in the harbor. You can't go back, and you take Cortez and all when he was down exploring Mexico and South America and all down through there. He took all of his sailors, his army back over and let them look out into the ocean, and he had all his ships set on fire. So all of a sudden now, guys, we're committed now. Mm-hmm. There's no going back. So you kind of got to you can't just put your toe in the water. You got to dive in. You got to get into it. More people have shots at success than they ever even believed that they had. They just didn't commit when it came along. They just didn't commit when the idea presented itself. They delayed, and so to me, commitment is the key. And I think you'll agree that before you can commit to something, you got to get your belief level enough to where you got confidence that this is something that I could. There's a pretty good chance I could do it. I don't have to have 100% guarantee. I just got to have a pretty good guarantee that I can do it. I can try it, and it's just something about trying. I am where I am today because I just have never let my trying motor die down. I just keep my trying motor going. Try. But you don't get paid for trying when you're doing the trying. But ultimately, when you do get paid, it's because you tried a lot. It's kind of compounded into that success. And then focusing constantly, guys. I'll come back and talk about that in a minute. Let's just stop right there. Let's focus on the thinking and the committing, Mauricio. I hope that made sense to you.
No, it did, absolutely. I think, yesterday I went to pick up my cousin to the airport, and he's there playing chess. He's paying a course to learn how to play chess. And I was thinking about, he was thinking about becoming a great chess player. I'm thinking, how can I think like a chess player, how to be strategic? Because sometimes we do just go out and act as we're just aggressive. We've developed the firing habit. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that go at it every single day. But I would be the first one to recognize here that sometimes we are not taking those, not doing the exercise of really thinking strategically to see what is the best next step, what is that next move we've got to do, and what are the consequences, the ripple effect of that, what's going to bring us to other things, or will cause other other consequences, and stuff like that. So I think thinking, out of the two things you've covered, I think thinking is really, like in that order, it's really think first. Yeah,
and that's why we list it the way we do. It's sequentially set up that way, and thinking is three categories. You're thinking about things from the past that you can learn from. Yeah. You're thinking about the things that you are doing now, what's working or not working now, and what are the current trends or needs in the market or your competition. And then then you got to have forward thinking. So it's the past, now, past, present, and future is encompasses the range of your thinking. And a chess player is a great example. If you're going to be a great chess player, the one thing I know you have to do is you have to be able to be very forward thinking. You have to be able to think 3, 4, 5, 10 moves ahead. Mm-hmm. You got to think about every possibility that could happen if he moved here, or if he checked me over here. You got to look at everything and consider all possibilities. Now sounds pretty heavy, but it's not. It's just get in the habit of doing that. Don't just go headlong into something that's not thought out. Mm-hmm. It's macho. It sounds good, but you can lose money, time. In battle, you can lose your life. So you got to think. You got to think strategically, and don't count on just your own thinking. A lone wolf is going to soon be a dead wolf. The strength of the wolf is in the pack, not in how strong that wolf is. And we've got to be in a pack here. And so all of that goes into this thinking strategically. And I'll get back. You'll always hear me come back to a system. It built into what I call our leadership format system that we teach our people, that I follow, that our people follow, and it's helped build all these companies we've built in the past. Is built into it is these 3 steps: the thinking strategically, the committing specifically, and then the focusing constantly is literally all been it's been built into our system. It goes without saying, if you follow the system, it will force you to do some of all these things in the right order, or at least be a part of a team that's helping you to do it. Right now, when I recruit a bunch of people, they don't need to do a lot of thinking. They need to come into business. I'll do the thinking for them, or our leaders will do the thinking for them. But quickly, we want them to learn it and have system thinking. But there's one other thing about thinking that I wanted to add a while ago, and I call it heart thinking. In our business, mm-hmm. heart thinking. You got your mind.
Got your heart.
Where does any thought come from? It comes from you either hear something, see something, smell something, taste something, or just feel something, and those are the things that create thoughts into your mind, and so when you have these thoughts, if they stay in the logic range up here, your IQ section, that's very good under certain projects. If you're a brain surgeon or a rocket scientist or this or that or the other, you better be precise and have a high IQ and stay in that game. But if you're going to be in a business of sales and motivation and recruiting and building teams and if you're in a conquering business, whether it's in the military, sports, or in business, if you're in the conquering business, you're going to conquer something, you got to go from here quickly and be dominated by your heart, not your physical heart, but your feeling center, your nerve mm-hmm. center, your emotion center. And so when you're doing this thinking strategically in our business, you got to make sure that those thoughts get transferred down to the emotional center, so the EQ takes over, and it supercharges these thoughts. These thoughts now become highly energized because they have emotion fired into them, and so it's the thinking strategically becomes much more powerful, much more successful. Mm-hmm. To just add an emotional charge to the proper thoughts. Now you got a better chance of actually having some of it, doing something with it, and being successful.
Well, absolutely. I think we've all done a little bit of that exercise in our lives. That's why we get up excited, because we've done a little bit of thinking. We can see what's possible, and then we go fight to try to get there. I think I was thinking that if Hubert is saying how important it is to think, if people like Thomas Watson, IBM's founder, CEO for a long time, says that the biggest problems in the world can be solved by just thinking, why aren't we thinking more? Why do you think that happens? I know it's like an ability. Is it's like getting up every morning and doing your physical exercise? Is you the mental exercise thinking? Because you just said it. Most entrepreneurs are doing very little of this.
Everybody is we live in a world today where everybody's in a hurry to go no place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, get up, check social media, see what, whatever.
We are in a hurry. We're busy doing busy things. Just play. It's like life's like a giant Monopoly game. You know what a Monopoly board is?
Sure,
you play a Monopoly game.
Yeah.
We're doing play work. Play this. Everything is nutrition light. There's very little nutrition in the things most people are out doing today. Mm-hmm. And they got to get. As far as this strategic thinking, we talked a lot about Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And I was reading some of the things that he's been talking lately. He's got the SpaceX, and they've taking people up to the manned space station, and going to put a man on the moon, and he's all trying to he's trying to think way forward thinking about being able to help take someone to Mars, and all these people thinking it's so romantic that they want to buy trips and go on these trips to Mars. And he started telling them, he said, listen, I've been thinking about this. I'm thinking way ahead of the game. I'm thinking that most people who go to Mars won't ever come back alive because it's got all these challenges to it. Mm-hmm. So here's a guy that's a brilliant guy creating something, doing strategic thinking, telling you that you may not, this going to Mars thing that you're talking about doing is not all that it cracks up to be. Right now, based upon what he sees and knows, there's a lot of solutions that are going to have to be developed before that's a meaningful enterprise. Because if you're going and you can't come back and you die, that don't sound like a good business.
Yeah, I think you couldn't bring a better example than Elon Musk, who everybody knows about. We talk about somebody doing thinking. I mean, he really brings it down to first principles. He breaks everything down to the most fundamental, basic things, and then risen from there. That's the hardest way of thinking, because you have to question everything and be so strategic as to how to build from there. But there's an example of a great thinker. He had to be a great thinker to be able to even see things in a whole complete different way, break things down, and then build something new out of it.
Well, so, you know the story of Sir Isaac Newton. He's wanted to discover. He didn't invent. He discovered gravity. And do you know how strategic he was in his thinking? He was sitting on the ground under an apple tree, and a damn apple fell on his head, and he said, I'm a strategic thinker. What caused that thing to fall down here? Why didn't it fall sideways? Oh, there must be something pulling it here. It must be something. Let's call it gravity. I'm really simplifying things.
Absolutely.
But
it's just that sometimes we're like used to seeing things in a certain way, like they can't be in a different way. They can, right? But anyways, sorry if I interrupted.
Yeah, well, no, and all the people thought the world was flat. Well, it was, in their mind, perception is reality. They thought it was flat. Well, first of all, whether it was flat or round. We still
have a lot of people thinking the earth is flat, Hubert. A lot of people.
But back in those, no doubt about it, we do. But back in those early days, whether the world was flat or round, it didn't make any difference because most of those people hadn't thought up enough ways to go any place anyhow. So
right.
so they wasn't going to go too far back in those days. And but the whole key here is this committing. Now it's thinking. The second one was committing. I'll tell you a little something that'll drive committing. Most people don't have faith in things. They don't have faith in a God. They don't have faith in. They just don't have. They don't have enough faith. And I've always learned that faith precedes the miracle. Any miracle or thing you want to accomplish in life, faith will precede it. And faith, if you've got faith, it's easy to commit when you got faith, because faith, the scriptures tell us that the definition of faith is it's the evidence of things unseen. It's the substance of things hoped for. You can't see it, you can't touch it, but I've got faith that exists. So I'm gonna go commit. And so, if you want to commit, or have your team committing, get it to where there's faith in you, and you've got faith in what you're doing, and that faith precedes all the greatness you want to have. And then that focusing. Before we get through, we got to talk about focusing just a minute, because, as I said to start with, if you can't stay focused, you lose everything. It's like if a battery can't keep its charge, what happens if it loses its charge? All its power's cut off, and whatever you're using the battery for, the car or whatever it is you're using it for, your telephone, this earpiece we've got, if the battery goes out, I mean, you're dead if the battery can't hold its charge. And we're that way as people. We're like one giant human battery. We're all now we've been thinking strategically. Boy, we're committing specifically, and we're out there doing something. And all of a sudden, we as a human battery start to lose our charge. We don't have the discipline to stay focused. What happens? We lose our effectiveness. We stop short of our success. We don't do the repetitions needed to do what we need to do. We just don't accomplish the things that success demands that we do, because we focused a little bit, hit and miss. But the word constantly, boy, that's where a system comes in, and a system of leaders is it causes you to focus constantly. We always talk about the Apollo 11 moon crew. They were off course 90% of the time, and but they landed on the moon. Now they had their GPS systems on board, 2 astronauts there, or at least, and then they had Houston control. And as they were going along, going through space, they would deviate a little bit off course, but then they'd be brought right back on. They'd be deviate constantly. It was CCC, constant course correction, is what the only way because we're human beings and we will not ever do anything perfectly. We hope we think we can, but we don't. We need to have constant course correction, or something that will quickly, constantly bring us right back. If the Apollo 11 crew had ventured offline and nobody looked at the GPS systems, if nobody at Houston Control called them, they could have went way off. Now, they could have course corrected it, but look, if they did 2 or 3 of those, they'd have used up so much of their fuel, they'd have never got to the moon. So your course corrections had to be quickly and constant. And so you got to have a system and some leaders and things that can help you have this focusing constantly. That's what I've learned in life.
Well, I think that's just great examples. And since you were talking about Elon Musk, if he thinks about something, if he doesn't stay committed and then focus, it's never real. None of the things we see today would have become a reality. So I think a great message today: to achieve greatness, we must think specifically, commit, think strategically, I should say, commit specifically, and focus constantly. So there you have it, everybody. I do want to remind you to check out, before we wrap this up, to check out the sponsor of this podcast, which is Hegemon Group International, because they've got the greatest opportunity to go in business in America today. And you can learn more about it by going to hgiopportunity.com. I also want to remind you that if you are watching this on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button, comment below, and share, so that this type of value gets to more of the driven, determined dreamers out there. And with that being said, Hubert, I want to thank you for the commitment you have to come here with us every single day and share the things that have made you a very successful entrepreneur in your life. Thank you for that very, very much. And I hope to talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Warning: this podcast may change the way you think about business, entrepreneurship, and money forever. The Conquistador Podcast was created for dreamers, entrepreneurs, and leaders who want to conquer their future. To be an epic entrepreneur, you must adopt the right mental paradigms, as well as master the art of selling, marketing, and finance.